Hi, I'm Maria.
And I'm Paul, 7 Stars Bar and Grill.
And today we're going to introduce you to Russian River Brewing Company's Pliny the Elder Double IPA.
Double IPA. IPA stands for India Pale Ale. And IPA started way back in the 1700s.
So in my research for this, one of the things I came across on one of the websites was that the story behind IPAs is one of the most romantic stories in beer history, which I was kind of horrified by because it goes back to colonies, which go in hand with slavery and oppression, and I don't think there's anything romantic about any of those things. However, I digress.
No, yeah. The problem was the English, they wanted their beer in their English colonies in India. But India, they couldn't do it there, they couldn't brew it there, and they found India was just too warm to brew their beer. And they learned through experience the long voyage from England to India. It was tough on their perishable beers.
Didn't lead to a good flavor. So they still continued to ship beers and experimented with sending different varieties of beer, and one brewer happened to send a very strong pale ale which had a lot of extra hops and a higher alcohol content, and so those combination of those two things kept the beer was a preservative, kept the beer from spoiling on the voyage, and not only kept it from spoiling but actually made the long voyage part of the aging process and enhanced the flavor. And then different breweries from different areas started experimenting with recipes, and so what became known as the first really popular IPA came from the English Midlands because they had a hard water, and that kind of brightened the flavor and helped counter the bitterness a little bit. And that was the birth of the original IPA.
IPA. Yeah, over time other styles of beers became more popular.
Because they weren't as bitter.
Exactly. But IPAs, their second chapter started as microbreweries that started to pop up in the 70s. Now, Russian River themselves, Russian River Brewing Company, they got its start under Corbel Champagne, which is a name we're all familiar, we've all heard before.
And champagne, we love that.
That was in Guerneville back in 1997. One of the brewmasters...
They had one brewmaster, one employee, one brewmaster.
One brewmaster, there you go. 6 years later, that brewmaster, along with his wife, 2 of his managing partners, and 30 of his friends and family investors.
Smart guy.
Yeah, really, a smart guy. They became the owner of the newly renamed Russian River Brewing Company, including all the beers and recipes already developed.
So Pliny the Elder was developed back in 2000. Actually, before that happened, it was for a double IPA festival that was held that they were invited to participate in, and back then in 2000 double IPAs were still just really making comeback, in double IPs especially, so they developed it just for that festival. The name, I thought this was fascinating, the name is named after a man named Pliny who lived back in the 1st century, and some historians credit him and his contemporaries with naming, or at least being the first to write about, it was this really long Latin word, but hops, essentially. So he's one of the historians credit him with discovering the hops. And Pliny the Elder was immortalized by his nephew, Pliny the Younger, all very familiar names to us, who wrote about his uncle succumbing to smoke and ash during Mount Vesuvius eruption back in 79 AD, which is Pompeii. And I thought this was fascinating because this morning I was working with my son's book club on volcanoes. We talked a little bit about Pompeii, and then this afternoon in doing this research, I came across this, and I thought that was so fascinating.
Yeah, timing was crazy on that. It worked out perfect. Pliny the Elder became the flagship of the brewery. If you follow beer, you'll find it's always in high demand due to its limited supply. According to the website, this is because it's best enjoyed fresh. As anything, really, it's best enjoyed fresh. And as one of the establishments honored carrying it, we guarantee we will keep it refrigerated as soon as it gets in, up until the point where it actually goes on draft.
Online, yep.
So.
Which sometimes is a struggle.
Yeah, it can be a struggle, but we stay on top of it to make sure it stays fresh for you guys. There's so much more we could say about IPAs. We try and carry anywhere from 3 to 4 different IPAs as often as we can, but we'll have many more opportunities to share about them in the future.
So I was getting ready for this today, and I was trying to think, have I ever actually tried Pliny the Elder before? As we discussed before, I'm not much of a beer person, and especially not beer. Like, I like soda beers that kind of taste like fruit or other things. But this is an IPA, not only an IPA, a double IPA, but I have to admit, I was preparing to really pucker and be turned off by the bitterness, but it's kind of bright. It's not as heavy as I thought. It's not as overpowering. Maybe it's just a really good day for it, but I actually kind of like it.
It could be. And like I said in the last video, I'm slowly becoming a beer guy. So I thinking about this, tasting this, I'm trying to be a little, I don't want to say critical, but I'm trying to really think about it and give an honest answer. And my honest answer is, it's cool. It's still not my type of beer, just because that hoppy flavor it just sits in my mouth. It's just it's too much. But
kind of makes you want to drink more to get rid of it.
yeah, and then I just keep going, boom, and next I'm done. It is good. I would drink it. I am drinking it, but I maintain that IPAs are just not for me. But
we were waiting to record today so that we could. So we just got a brand new keg on that we just put on. But now on to one of our flagship items here, our mascot Jabba the Hutt. I call him my mascot because we take him around. If you look up hashtag Jabba meet and greet, you'll see a lot of pictures with him with different customers and visitors.
Definitely, that's a big one. We've hashtag Jabba meet and greet. Search that every time we go out. We do our events. That's one of the ones we use. And our events, we go out any outdoor event that we're doing. But he was created for a Star Wars art show that we were asked to host. It was put on by a tattoo shop that used to be next door, and the artist came through and talked to us and see if we'd be willing to do that. And it just so happens we're coming up on the anniversary. It was December 4th, 2013.
So their version of a May the 4th.
Yeah.
So one of the artists, actually, while sitting here in the bar, was having a conversation with a local beer rep, actually from Strike Brewing, and she wanted to create art that could serve beer, and he said, I can help this happen. And so that was the origin of starting to think about this.
We had a lot of back and forth from there. We talked about size, dimension. We found some references that she could use to model them after. But essentially, Jabba was made so that his head, his torso, could fit over a standard size keg, a standard size 6th keg. So the cylinder. The idea was that tubing would lead up through him, out his mouth through a tongue that was fashioned so that if you found the right spot, you could squeeze it.
Like those old college cakes.
Right, like an old keg you'd see at a house party and stuff like that. But to activate from there and literally pour out the tip of his tongue.
So that was the idea. He was supposed to serve beer. As artists often are, he was being worked on right to the very last minute, squeezed through our doors, still wet and drying. And so they never got to experiment at all with the tubing and the tongue and everything to see it work together. And when they first hooked it up, some of the tubing leaked, and out of fear of ruining him, we abandoned that. So he never actually did serve any beer. That was the idea.
That was the plan. Never actually followed through. But ultimately, after the show, the artist Maxine Rodriguez,
amazing artist.
You can find her on Instagram as well. She left him here. He was on here on display, and ultimately she gifted him to the bar, and now he sits on his throne in the corner over by the DJ booth.
And so now the reason I say he's our mascot, which Paul doesn't always agree with that particular verbiage, is we take him with us. So when we get to go visit conventions, we've done Bacon and Beer Classic, we've done Silicon Valley Comic Con, we've done a taco takeover. Royalty's been to the San Jose Giants Star Wars Day
3 different times. But ultimately what happened is at see, now I'm all rattled.
So he has suffered some
calamities.
He has suffered some calamities over the years. For one thing, to get him out the door,
we've literally got to squeeze him to like half the size, the lower end of his torso to get him out.
And then he doesn't fit into any standard that we have, covered car.
So we have the 7 Stars truck specifically, really, just to haul him around.
Pickup truck, so it's open.
An open bed pickup truck. One of the calamities we experienced was I lost his tongue, first of all. Leaving Silicon Valley Comic Con, moving everything on my own, I ended up misplacing his tongue. But the big one that he suffered was on our way to the San Jose Giants.
On his way.
On my way.
He ended up abandoned. I had other things to do that day. An employee was going to help who got super sick at the last minute.
Yeah.
So he was all by himself. And because he didn't have the help he was expecting, you were now running late. I didn't tie him down as well as I should have. And not only did he take a tumble out of the back of the truck, he took a tumble out of the back of the truck on the freeway. Luckily, I was able to get over right away. He didn't land in a lane or anything. He's off to the side. I was able to scoop him up, throw him back of the truck.
dealt with it later.
Any other time I would have been right behind him. I always keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
He usually doesn't take the freeway because of what could happen.
But I was late.
He was by himself and late, so it was just a double whammy.
Yeah. One of his arms kind of sort of broke off. Lots of holes and scrapes and stuff like that. It took me, I'm not an artist, but it took me maybe another 4 months, a little here, a little there, to patch him back together, repaint him, and so on and so forth.
So yeah, you'll see him. He lords over the dining area of Seven Stars Bar and Grill. He's our Jabba the Hutt. #Jabba Meet and Greet.
Jabba Meet and Greet.
Cheers.
Cheers.